You ever see a man walk into a room and you just know trouble's about to happen? Like the air gets heavy, the lights go a little colder, and even folks who've seen it all just freeze up. Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like the morning Sterling Calloway showed up at the diner, strutting through the door in this blinding designer jacket. Like he owned not just the building, but the very oxygen we all had to share. You know what I mean? The staff stiffened. Even the manager seemed to shrink an inch, and right off the bat, it was Amani, the new waitress, who got picked to serve his table. Not out of kindness, but out of fear or maybe cowardice. Hell, I'll never know which. The place was buzzing. All the breakfast sounds, the hiss of eggs, forks tapping, coffee gurgling out in the back, neon bleeding blue across the vinyl booths. Just another weekday until that man started talking. He looked at Amani. She's barely been there a week. You can still see hope in her eyes. And he lets loose, loud enough for the whole room to hear, something so ugly and sharp it cut the noise right out of the air. "So you hire apes now?" Not whispered, not slipped out. He said it like he was daring anyone to stop him, and a couple of his friends laughed. But it was that weird, hollow kind of laughter folks use when they want to look brave but feel nothing but scared. Phones started to lift, slow at first, but you could feel the collective pulse. Something was about to go down. Amani stood there, gripping her tray a little tighter, shoulders tensed like she might just fold, but she didn't. She just let her breath out, slow, and kept her head up, which, God, if you've ever been the only one standing on the edge of a crowd, you know how hard that is. The manager, pretending like he couldn't hear, kept rearranging menus at the register, glancing over but not really seeing. All the while, Arthur sat in his booth by the window, old denim jacket, hands around a cup of cold tea. If you didn't know, you'd just think he was another quiet regular. But Arthur wasn't regular. He owned that diner and 31 others just like it. A man who'd built something out of nothing and learned a long time ago when to watch and when to act. And right then, he was watching. Sterling loved having an audience. Every order he gave was a performance. Extra hot, but not too hot. Eggs soft, but not runny. Pancakes Instagram perfect. He put his watch on the table, started timing her like she was in some sort of contest, and his friends leaned in, loving the show. It was obvious he was grading her, waiting for a single mistake. Amani, to her credit, moved through it all with a kind of grace, never rushing, never begging. She switched hands when her wrists started to ache, kept the coffee coming, smiled just enough, but not so much she looked like she was begging for approval. You could hear whispers all around. Isn't the owner going to do something? But nobody knew the truth, not yet. Arthur just sat, letting the story play out, waiting for proof, not just rumor or gossip. One of the cooks, tattoos snaking down his arm, muttered to her as she passed the kitchen window, "I got your back, kid." Didn't even look up, but you could feel the kitchen behind her, quietly rooting. Then, right in the middle of all this, Sterling leaned back and with a grin, tips his glass of water right into Amani's lap. Just like that, a deliberate, slow-motion humiliation in front of everybody. You ever see a room go silent, like even the sound drops away? That's what happened. The laughter from his friends, the flicker of phones, everyone saw it. Amani stood there, soaked, but she didn't break. The manager, God help him, came hustling over and actually started scolding her, not the billionaire. "What did you do, Amani? Look at this mess." Like she was a child who'd ruined dinner. The crowd murmured, uncomfortable. A couple folks whispered about walking out, but nobody moved yet. Sterling wasn't done. He picked up another glass, swirling it, daring the world to stop him. And at that moment you could feel every eye in that diner locked on one thing. Amani, standing in wet clothes, holding on to her dignity with everything she had. She set her tray down, straightened her shoulders, looked Sterling dead in the eye, and said, "Please." That's enough. Not loud, not angry, just real. You could have heard a pin drop, and that's when Arthur finally moved. The chair scraped back, a small, quiet noise, but somehow it cut through the tension sharper than any yell. He stood up, shadow stretching across the checkered tile, walked right over to Sterling's booth. "That's enough," he said, voice low, but it carried. Sterling, for the first time all morning, lost his smirk for just a second, then tried to play it cool. "And you are?" mocking, like he still owned the place. Arthur reached into his jacket, pulled out his wallet, flipped it open, gold embossed card. I'm Arthur Pennington. I own this diner. And 31 more just like it. You're banned. Not just from here, from every one of my restaurants, permanently. Gasps all around. Phones up high now, recording every word. Sterling blustered. Do you know who I am? Waving that fancy watch like it was a badge of power, but Arthur never flinched. Yeah, now go find somewhere else to eat. You don't get to humiliate people here. Not under my roof. He turned to the manager, voice sharp. You blamed her for his abuse? Tomorrow you'll explain to HR why you still have this job. Tonight, you'll apologize. The manager fumbled, stammered out a shaky, I'm sorry, Amani. But you could see he'd already lost the room. Arthur told Amani she was full-time now, benefits starting today. Step off the floor. You've carried enough weight for one shift. The place erupted, not with applause, but with this surge of whispers, a ripple of energy as folks started texting, uploading, sharing what they'd just seen. #justice. You know how it goes these days. By that night, the videos had gone viral. Sponsors cut ties with Sterling. Boards dropped his name, brands pulled ads. Meanwhile, lines stretched outside Arthur's diners. People wanted more than pancakes now. They wanted to support someplace safe, a place where dignity wasn't for sale. Days later, Amani came back in a fresh uniform. Standing a little taller, co-workers greeting her with smiles and claps, even a small bouquet tucked by her station. She wasn't invisible anymore. The new policy hung on the wall for everyone to see. Zero tolerance for harassment. Dignity is non-negotiable. And folks noticed. The energy in the room changed. Regulars came in just to say thanks. Families drove in from towns over. Tourists tagged it on their travel maps. Even Arthur seemed lighter, sitting in his corner with a fresh cup of tea, nodding quietly when Amani passed by .as for Sterling. Well, the world watched his empire crumble in real time. All the money, the noise, the arrogance. None of it mattered when the cameras were rolling and the world had seen him for who he was. In the end, justice wasn't some big dramatic showdown. It was just one old man standing up when everyone else was too afraid, one waitress refusing to shrink, a whole diner full of strangers learning that sometimes the line isn't where you think it is, and the right thing isn't always the easy thing. So, let me ask you, if you saw someone being torn down right in front of you, would you keep your seat, or would you stand up? Sometimes, the world doesn't need another hero. It just needs someone to finally say, that's enough. What about you? Where would you draw your line? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what dignity means. Because maybe, just maybe, that's how real change starts.